is it has what they call multi-drive, and I was originally going to have the slug to go behind it. Now I've started on it and used a Hobbytown RS3 chassis, so you can multi-line off the motor in here on that, so you didn't have to worry about trying to cram a motor under that short hood. I don't know what happened to the slug. I know I got as far as the hood and everything on it, and then I went off to some other projects. So I was bad about that kind of stuff back then. I still am. Next, that's the other side of it. But it actually made a fairly nice little U25B. That Riverossi shell was pretty good. And even the 25C, the drive on it was probably the best they had at the time, although the center axles were idlers on them. It wasn't a full 6-wheel drive truck, but they were good. Okay. That was the first brass I had, and I bought it that way. I think that was an early Gwynn Birch paint job on that. The guy I bought it from did a lot of stuff with Gwynn Birch. But by the time I got it, it had been scratched out and all this. And I decided to change eras. I wasn't going to do steam, so I sold it. I had an M1 at the time too, and I sold it off, and I regret doing that one. Next. Now we're moving up quite a bit. This is the old Atlas Katos RS3s when they first came out. Of course, they didn't do them in L&N. And the only decals available were the ones for the F units from Microscale. So all those stripes and everything have been narrowed down for the RS3. Added a horn to it. They had open shutters on the radiator. I replaced that with evergreen styrene to simulate the closed shutters because it was a whole lot easier to decal than the open shutters. But it's pretty much stock, those few little things. Those are sweet runners too. I did several of those. That was mine. I did 2 or 3 for some other people. But I'm glad you can get the right decals now for Microscale for those. Okay? Very good. The SD38-2. How many remember GSB?
Yes. Yeah.
GSB was almost a fly-by-night company. They were only out for a short time, but the hood they did had interchangeable features on it, the radiators and such. It had the short nose. The Athearn 40-2, which came out just shortly before the GSB, had the later hood with the longer nose. So, but that is a GSB hood chassis and on an Athearn chassis. The radiator section came from an Lifelike GP38-2. And but I detailed that. That has every detail on it. You can't really see it in this photo because it's so grainy. But it has the etched brass walkways that PIA did, the handrail stanchions. It had everything at the time you could put on one. I have a story behind the 4504. A buddy of mine, before I did this, came up to Birmingham from Pensacola with the rail fan for a weekend, and we went to Bull's Yard, and every single 38-2 was there that day. We shot them all, but this was the last one in L&N. All the others were in Family Lines paint. So that's why I modeled that one. And when Scale Trains came out, I bought that one. So, but that was, John, do you have that one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Josh wants it.
I'll have to find it though. Last I remember is that the walkways were starting to peel up.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. I think we used goo or something to put them on with.
Yeah, goo.
I tell you, things are so much better these days. All right, next. I tried a little kit bashing with steam. That's the old model die casting Roundhouse 060. And L&N had one fairly close to it that was a 260, so I added the pilot truck. I extended the frame a little bit to get the uneven driver spacing, but it's got basically fake side rods. It is not powered. I'd have to go back and figure out a way to redo the side rods to power it. I still have this one. I figured it would look good sitting in a roundhouse or something, but cut the tender down. The tender's a little shorter on that one. But it made a fairly decent. These days I do a little bit more detailing to it, but that was the first attempt at kit bashing steam. Okay, next. This ain't Atlas. It is not brass. This goes back a while. I always wanted to do the number 10, and it's scratch bashed. It started with an Alco hood, Atlas Alco S2 hood, and the cab, and pretty much everything on it is added on. The doors, I think I saved the louver section of the bottom of the hood, extended the doors. It's just all that. The chassis is a cut down Athearn chassis. I never got around to powering it. I didn't have a layout at that time. And so it's been sitting up in my display case till about, what, a year ago, Mike?
Yeah.
And Mike, they were looking for something for the display case at Bowling Green, and they traded me an undecorated Alco for that one. So it's up in Bowling Green now.
Yeah, it's in the engine. If you go tour the historic rail park, it's in the EA up in that display now.
I did all the artwork for the decals, which got lost. But it was about as correct as I could make it. It's missing a few little things on it, but no one notices, so I'm not gonna say what they are. Okay. That's the other side of it. Next. Now this is getting a little bit later. This is the Stewart Phase 3 shell. This is the L&N version with the headlights and the everything done as best I could on it. And added the MU stands, redid the front handrails, the battery boxes behind the hood. And of course, what you know, and the same as with the HH660 and the SD38-2, somebody came out with them later. And this is the same version that Bowser did a couple of years ago. Next. There it is, all painted up. I still have this one, but I think it's gonna go to Jeff Coolboard, because he doesn't have DCC on his layout. But that's, at the time, that was one of my better efforts, I think. Okay. Another one, all right. Protopower. When they first came out, they did the FA2s. They did not do them in L&N, of course. So this is microscale decals. The only other thing I think other than the horn, the shutters they had back in the back were operating shutters. They were real cheesy looking. I replaced it with evergreen styrene in the closed position, clapboard siding. It was about the right size, so. Had the operating fan in it too, which was belt driven off the thing, which not. I did that, I got a B unit done, and I ended up giving those to Jeff Coolboard. He has them on his layout now. Added the handrail, redid the handrails with wire, things like that, okay? And then Protopower later came out with the Jeep 7s, and this is actually a factory painted one. But I went back through, and 509 actually had silver side frames, so I painted those. Added some details to it. It had plastic grab irons on it, on the noses, and they were kind of heavy looking. I think they were yellow plastic or something, it looked right. So I replaced all those with wire and touched up painting and some pilot details and such. I still have that one. I don't know if I'll ever use it again. I'll have to go back and put DCC in it now, but I still have that one. And then the next one, I did this one much later. These are a little bit out of sequence line, but this is the Jeep 7 straight version of it.
Hey, Lee?
Yes, sir.
And do you know the history of the silver trucks on?
From what I understand, Mobile shops painted some, but I think I saw a shot at one at South Louisville that came out that way too, an E unit that came out with the silver trucks. But for some reason, there was somebody in the Mobile shops that painted a lot of the FP7s and stuff that were down on the south end with the silver trucks.
Jerry Lockashade's got the lowdown on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was worth mentioning because that was kind of unique to the south end of the railroad, and it was basically the whim of the master mechanic at Mobile. He thought that, units would be easier to inspect the trucks and so on if they were painted silver like that. And of course, they wound up showing a dirt a lot
Yeah.
easier and grease and what have you. So, and then I think when the headquarters finally caught up with it, that practice ended. But some modelers might get confused about that if they see a picture of one of those units with silver truck.
Yeah.
You gotta be just aware that if you want silver trucks on your locomotive, that's what you're up against. It's not the system standard. I'm hoping I can put together an article, one of these days for the Modeler's Corner in the magazine that'll speak to, some of the peculiarities that, field officers, took upon themselves to do that were not so-called standard L&N practices.
Yeah, that'd be good, because, yeah, there's a lot of that. On the L&N, you'll find stuff like standard plans, especially like with depots and stuff. I've yet to find a depot that's built exactly to the standard plan, out of hundreds. Because all of them were built by local contractors, and so they make their changes and such, and I guess it was up to the locals too, how they wanted them running. So this unit, this one I went whole hog on as far as this was the first unit I installed DCC and sound. It has wow sound in it. And it desperately needs to keep a light in it. Those trucks, we have a lot to be desired on pickup, but next. That's it, all finished up. Even the lower headlights, everything's lit with LEDs. The top headlights, the Mars light works.
What's the make of it?
That's Protopower.
Oh, it's Port Power.
Yeah. They made a fairly decent one. I've seen a lot of people trying to compare those to the latest Atherin, and they're, detail wise, they're about the same, good and everything, so. Anyway, but that was fun. I still have that one, and maybe one of these days I'll put a keep alive in it. It's a rat's nest of wiring inside that thing, I'll tell you though. I've learned a lot since then about wiring. Next. In scale. It ain't mine, but I painted it. Buddy of mine always was trading me out stuff, and then he wanted an in scale locomotive painter. I'm not sure. I think that might be Cato. I'm not that familiar with in scale. It's really nice compared for what it is. Back when I used to custom paint, I had one guy that was in scale. He switched from HO to N when he turned 60 something. I'm the opposite. If I'm gonna switch, I'm going bigger. He had me paint, what was it, a DL9 in Southern, the original Southern colors with all the greens and the whites. I actually got it done, but I don't want to ever do that again. Okay. This is another Proto was a game changer for me. This is the E6, highly modified. The side panels, the windows area was completely redone to match the 752. I opened up all the grills for just moldings up top. There it's all open with screen and the braces behind them. I need to go back and redo some stuff on this one. The handrails were what came with it. I don't want to replace those with some finer wire. And I got the tubing to make it look right. And I need to redo the headlights. But
Did you add the number boards?
yeah, added the number boards. If you remember on the E6s they had below the upper headlight, they had a little boxy thing on it, which some railroads had. L&N didn't, had to remove that. It was a fun project. Next. And just to show you what you can do with a Proto E6, that EA is made out of an E6. I did that for a friend of mine.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
That's a Proto E6. EA, B&O EA is a Proto E6 that I converted to an EA for a friend of mine, Jerry Johnson. Some of y'all might remember him. Caused quite a stir when he posted on the B&O Modelers group, I understand. I wish I had that engine, but it got caught up in his estate sale after he passed, and I don't know what happened to it. So. Now, this is a little bit more version of what I had before, except this is the 280 chassis that Roundhouse did, with the boiler and everything. I was just playing around with this, trying to figure out how to make certain steam locomotives. I've changed my philosophy a little bit about it since then, but I turned the domes out of plastic stock, added details where I could. Those are actually Bowser drivers in an MDC chassis, because the Bowser drivers were closer to what L&N had. And you can't find this stuff these days unless you go on eBay. Brass front, and it's just, and the cab is completely scratch built. That was a South Louisville design cab with Archer rivets on it. Okay, next. And that's the one it is, 666, which hung around South Alabama and all that. It actually runs, but I never got around to putting a decoder or anything in it. It's probably going to end up in the roundhouse too, if I ever have a roundhouse. Although I might go back and put a decoder in it, and it needs some more backhead detail too. But that's what's capable.
engine.
I mean, you know, with that kind of stuff. Okay. This is an M1. That's a West Side M1. I painted for a guy down in Florida. Even though I don't custom paint anymore, but sometimes they make me offers I can't refuse. Art Tuttle, I know David knew Art, and some of you other, John, but Art Tuttle took it before I painted it, and he did the modification, Bob Chapman modifications to it. Bob's got an excellent article in one of our magazines on how to redo the West Side to make it even closer. The big thing is the cab overhang. So that needs to be shortened up. Unfortunately, after the guy got this back, it got stolen, and I don't think he ever got it back. So, next. Walthers came out with a new run. This has been a few years ago. The SW1s. Their first run are crappy. Don't bother with them. But the second run, and I understand they're going to re-release these, probably with DCC and sound. This had a DCC plug in it, but I really went whole hog. The 15 went to a friend of mine we do op sessions with. He wanted one for his layout, and 14 is mine. I should have brought it, but I didn't. Next, that's the 14. But I did add a lot. KV, if you're not familiar with KV products, their edge metal stuff, it is fantastic. Josh, I think the next one has, yeah, they have the grill for the radiator. It's got the shutters behind it, and the fans are behind it. And some of their later, for like the MW or the SWs, what's the later ones they did, the SW9s, have the top grills and everything. And the radiators that go under them. And a lot of the bigger diesels too. They do some good stuff. I think they're only available online, but it's KV models. If you search that, we've used a lot of them. Between Josh and I think they know our names. So, yeah. And then that's it on the layout we go operate on down outside Birmingham, Birmingham Southern layout. It's really nice. But
Lee, the last one of those units was in Pascagoula.
yeah,
It's the grain elevator.
yeah, it's the one in Foley now.
Yeah.
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 I went and crawled around on that one, but it's been modified some. Originally, these had the short stacks when they were first done. They later got long. Some of them got like a pipe stuck in them or something to make them longer. But that of all the I don't deal much with Walthers locomotives, but I love that one. I got another one sitting in the box. I don't know. Keep trying to talk Josh into doing something with it. Okay. That was a Cato NW2. still got the Cato drive in it, which if you're not familiar with that one, it's a really good smooth running drive, but the inside of that hood is fully cast metal. I mean, it's built like an N-scale locomotive. It's got it's split all down the center and insulated from each side. It was a bear putting a decoder in that thing. I had to cut away some of the weight, and it's just, but it's not sound either. I was just a straight. But here again, it has the KB grills on the front. The Cato NW2 is an early phase 1, if I remember my phases correctly. This is a phase 4, which is a later. Has the straight slope going into the cab. That's off an Athearn SW shell. The bloopers are Plano, they're added on. A few other things. The decals, I made the artwork for. I think I still have that one. I printed it out on an Alps printer. I tried to get one of the decal companies to do that set for the society so we'd have it available, but they couldn't use my artwork for some reason. Then they wanted to charge us a lot of money to redo it so they could use it, so. We'll find somebody else eventually if there's a call for it. I don't know if anybody wants any decals like that or not. Okay. That's the DO1000. This is a decal set that Kurt Fortenberry did, and I think it might still be available. That particular 1000 in an L&N Employees magazine, I forget what the date is, but it's not long after these were delivered. Birmingham had a new diesel switcher shop, and there was one of these sitting in there. And I didn't, at the time, before I saw that, I thought all these stayed up north, on the north end of the system. But if it gets to Birmingham, that's my model. I'll model it, so. And I got Jeff Kubler's safety things on it too. So it's sitting in there if y'all want to take a closer look at it. That's a Bowser version. I think it's got a decoder in it. It doesn't have sound yet, but that's one I'll probably end up putting sound in someday. Next. Talked about redoing the F units. This is from what? This was right before COVID, 2019. Those are Highliner shells on Genesis drives with low sound 4s. Each unit has its own sound decoder. All of them are powered. Each of them is programmed to a slightly different 567. You're talking about something that sounds as nice as it runs. It looks, that's the way to go. But they got every detail on them I could put and come up with. You've got the right filters on them, couplers. I mean, it's all the uncoupling stuff. It's a combination, a lot of detail associate parts on there. It's just, and then that's painted with it's the microscale decals. I finally figured out how to work around those things and get them where they look halfway decent. So next is Kosha. The module it's sitting on is Ken. Y'all familiar with Ken Patterson?
Yeah.
That's one of his dioramas that he did. He did some Athearn advertising on this module. That was in his backyard. We stopped there before we went up for the RPM, St. Louis RPM in 2019, and we went by there the afternoon before. One of the guys that was riding with us, Ken, was shooting an interview with, so while we were there, said, y'all want to do anything, just take it out there and shoot, whatever, so we did that. Next. That's on Jeff Kubler's layout. During the RPM meet, we took them over. We always go to Jeff's house afterwards and run trains, so I got him out on this Red River Viaduct. How many knew that Atlas made an SW9? And you know why? John knows, but yeah, it's O-scale. This is P48. This is something I'm dabbling in a little bit off and on. This was my first one. KV models again, the grills and the front, and really, that makes that unit because the plastics or the ones they had molded in and just did not look good. That is a die-cast metal shell though. I did not know that when I bought one. And that was a bear to work with. There were some other things, replaced the handrail stanchions, completely rebuilt the pilots. It's got totally scale couplers, it's got P48 wheels, which are scale and the right gauge. It's not the standard O-scale 5-foot gauge. It's got a low sound decoder, it's got sound, everything in it. It really works well. I'm gonna put it back in standard gauge and John's gonna get it, so. I'm moving on to something else in P48, so. Okay. Just to give you an idea, that's the O-scale Emma and the HO-scale Emma, if anybody ever wondered. That was O-scale Emma I was getting ready to paint for Joe Mashburn down in Montgomery. He made me a deal I couldn't refuse on that. But I found that O-scale Emma on Big Boy, on eBay. Actually, I wasn't looking for one. I was looking for L&N 2-bay hopper cars, Intermountain made. And it popped up with 2 L&N Intermountain hoppers, and it was not listed under locomotives. So nobody was bidding on this thing. I put in a bid for $525, and I won. I don't, I hadn't planned on getting one. It was just, it happened that way. I got my hopper cars too, so. It needs to be repainted. It needs a lot of work done too. So, but then Joe had that, so that was the first opportunity I had to sit side by side with HO. Also, if you're wondering, and Jeff and Kugler and I have gone back and forth about it, whether the West Side M1 or the Gym, which one, and they are actually extremely close to each other. There are a couple of minor differences, but I think the West Side run is done by the same company that did the Gym ones. It's just they updated them a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think the Gym came with brake hangers.
What, brake hangers?
It did come with the brake hangers, and I think the West Side did.
Yeah. But anyway, next. Anyway, that's it. After I painted it for Joe Mashburn, he wanted the flashier passenger one, so I did the 62 with all the silver stuff and all full striping. I found out doing research on M1s, that striping changed a lot in front of the cab.
No stars?
Mm-hmm.
No stars?
I forgot the stars. No, I think the photo I worked from on this one, it didn't have the stars.
Oh.
I did the stars on the first one. I still got a decal sheet of those.
I knew.
They're over the HO scale, John.
Blow.
But I painted, I don't know how many M1s I painted over time. I painted at least one O scale one before. But I did several.
I know
West
there's a
Side.
bunch more you need to paint.
Huh?
I know where there's a bunch more you need to paint.
What did you paint that with, Lee? Was that still
Huh?
scale, was that still scale coat paint?
No, this one was not. This is Tamiya. I used Tamiya primer on it. And I think the rest of it's Tamiya too. I could not get a fresh bottle of scale coat at this time. This was right when they went away. And we thought for a while it's coming back, but evidently that guy's given up on it. So.
Yeah, he has.
So I'm searching for alternatives. I got some more brass Simone I got to paint.
So that black looks good.
Yeah.
So
I'm well pleased with Tamiya paint, and I've tried, and some of the others are good too. I use some Badger Model Flex and that and True Color. True Color, I've had some issues with it sticking on certain things, but other than that, it's been good. You don't put it on straight on resin. You got to have a primer on it for sure. I've gotten to the point now I primer everything. I didn't used to, but the scale coat, the Tamiya primer in a can is great stuff. But do it outside. stout stuff.
I have trouble masking with
Hmm?
I have trouble masking with True Color.
Yeah, I've had it pull off too.
Yeah, it pulls off.
And
That engine, when the M1 book came out,
yeah.
I discovered that the tender trucks are wrong. Should be
Oh,
common
yeah,
wheel.
yeah. The West Side and the GM have the Baldwin tender with the Lima engine.
Mhm.
And no one makes the correct Lima trucks for that. There's some, Bob Chapman would swap them out with something Bowser used to make. But it's still not the right truck. Division Point got it right. And Division Points are a whole lot better, but of course they're about 3 times the cost of that one. So,
Yep. And scarce.
Dave, what's your opinion? You got a Division Point. It's a lot better than the West Side, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Detail wise and everything. There was a guy at RPM a couple of years ago that had a Division Point that he completely remotored, put DCC in and everything, and it ran sweet. He brought it over to Jeff's layout, and he was running around on the Fremo at RPM.
Just when Dora comes back, don't tell her what you have to pay for.
You're still paying for it, isn't it? Mortgage?
Yeah, remind me in the clinic, caboose clinic about the Division Point cabooses. It's just, anyway. Okay, next. We're getting close. Anybody know the story behind the 1593? If you was the 2019 L&N convention,
Is that the 4501?
that's the 4501. I did this mainly, this was a test bed when we had the new steam decals made that we're selling through the company store. I had this is a power, what do they call them, power,
Protopower?
no, not Proto Power, the Power Series.
Yeah,
the Sam
Powerhouse.
Hobbs.
Powerhouse.
Yeah, Sam Hobbs, I think it is.
The old Oriental?
Yeah.
Oriental, yeah, it's a brass chassis, the tender's brass, the boiler's die cast.
Hybrid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hybrid, and you ain't gonna mess with that die cast boiler. I mean, God, you're trying to drill stuff and all that. I just decided to paint it up that way, and if anybody's interested in buying it, I'll make you a deal. It doesn't fit in with what I'm doing, but that was the test vehicle for our new decals, so it worked out well. And it's close to 4501. It's got the feed water heater and all that, so it's on. Only thing is, I want the headlight off of it. I'm gonna swap it back for another headlight. But, next, I think we're getting close to the end. Yeah, oh no, we're not. This is one of those off and on again projects. This is the Atlas SDP 35, which has always been one of my favorite L&N locomotives, even though it's not my 1950-51 time era. But I've been working on this one off and on for a while now. Next. It's got a cannon cab, nose. Next. It's redoing the whole thing. It's a Plano GP35 roof panel, which are the same size. Of course, the cannon fans. I made the little marker lights. L&N had those funky square ones, which of course no one made, so you had to scratch those. This switcher style light in the back. More cannon parts next. Okay, we're going into freight cars now. I did do a few. These were the Atlas cars when they first came out, but they did not do L&N. And they did, actually the last L&N one I remember, or the only L&N one I remember doing was sort of a hybrid paint scheme. But I added the solid decks. They had a mesh deck. And I came up with the artwork for the decals and had those done, but that's another one that got lost. Anyway, next. One of my favorite cars for all time has been the indoor 40-foot cars, but no one made anything close to them. So this is a scratch bash. These were rebuilt from single sheet box cars, which is why it's got a frame like it does. they added the steel panels. And the only way I could come up with them correctly, those are actually 10 thousandths clear styrene. Because clear doesn't buckle under the cement like the white styrene does, if you get too much cement over there. The Archer rivets, I don't remember where the door, I think the doors came from a red Caboose car. The indoors are, oh, what were those? I've got some extras. That's either the MDC from their 50-foot indoor box car, or they were, I'm sorry, I don't remember now. I've got some extras though. But if that's the MDC car, I carved the ladder off to put that ladder on there. They had molded in ladders, but I finally got the car I wanted. And the other end is a Detail Associates end that's bashed down to the right rib pattern. So I want to go back and redo the ladders on this one. I've become a big fan of etched brass ladders from Yarmouth. They're a pain in the butt to make, but man, they look nice. Next. If you remember, Bob Chapman did a series in our magazine about L&N wood racks. They're not pulpwood cars, they're wood racks. Okay? Being on the south end, we had tons of these things. This is an early one though. That's a red Caboose car cut down. It's code 55 rail for the railings on the end and the bulkheads and styrene. Bob did his a little different, but he's got an idea of that. Next, and that's it, all fixed up. It's in the room over there. We'll take a closer look at it. Next, I forgot to bring this one, but that is based on a photograph from one of the L&N employee magazines. But those, Farmall was just outside Louisville, so L&N shipped a lot of those. Those are the Lifelike / Walther's Scenic Farmalls. I finally got enough to do a whole flat car load. I did all the blocking for them. You can't see it in this photograph, but it's got all the wire tie downs and everything, which was that easy line, which David's got some examples of on his thing out there. Really nice car. And the biggest question I always got when I took it to RPM meet was, where did I get the Farmall decals? Because Sunshine made them years ago and stopped. And Art Tuttle, bless his heart, way back when I was thinking about doing it, he said, I got some Farmall decals if you need them. So, anyway. But tractors required a lot of work too, but it's a really nice car. Okay. That's the Athearn 65-foot mill gun. I guess fairly recent. It was in a yellow box. That has the speed witch. I don't know if they're still available. Ends on it, the match L&N and the decals. Bill Welch did all that for Speed Witch, so I did that. That load, that's just something I threw in there. I'm trying to figure out a load for it one day. I think I'm going to end up putting poles in it. But anyway, next, the wheel cars. These are Tichy wheel cars, if y'all ever seen. Tichy hasn't, but the side sills are resin castings I made. Because I actually did 4 of these cars. Jeff Cooler's got the others. But you replace the side sills on them and you can kind of finagle the. This is one of those things, I researched all I could on it at the time and built it as close as I could to the photo. And we're talking about the aperture cards earlier, first session. I found the aperture cards for these cars. Those things were open deck. So I think it might still stay that way. So next, that's a Resin Car Works gondola. I think it's in there. This is, again, this was the first RPM after COVID, so this has been the 2021 RPM. I bought that. He only made a limited run of them. I got one of the last ones he had. It's a beautiful car. That's probably one of the nicest resin kits at the time you could get. It had the decals and everything, so Road made a nice car. Okay, next. Funero did these one-piece body single sheet cars, and that's a perfect match for the. This one's Atlanta West Point. It's a perfect match for the L&N. And Speedwich had the decals for it, which are still available from National Car Company. Bought out Speedwich's decal lines. Next. Anyway, that's the second one I built. That's the first one. And this one has the Yarmouth ladders. It's a little, you can see the difference between the Tichy ladders that came with the kit and that. Just the finer look. I'm a detail freak, so don't mind me. So, and next. And that's it, in process, decaling. Next.
Lee, those decals, that National Car made for
Yeah.
the ventilated boxcar,
Yeah,
we're selling those separately through the company store, and they're applicable to
yeah,
the
a lot
car
of
you
stuff.
just showed, if you can't find the Speedwich.
This is talking ventilated boxcar. There we go. But the instructions for this car are online. If you want to gander at them, through the L&N RR site, go to Modelers, what we call it, Modelers page. And they're somewhere, I forget exactly how to get to them. They're on there. Fenton Wells did this car for an RPM meet, Cocoa Beach, back in 2024. And the Take and Shake car for that convention. Fenton did the Masters, the ends and the doors and the little side vents. The basis is an AccuRail 36-foot boxcar. I have very mixed feelings about it. I've seen a lot better resin castings, and it takes a lot of work to do this car. Let's just put it that way. I varied from the instructions on mine, and I think we included that in the instructions. They're online for the car. And I substituted Yarmouth ladders again. I didn't do the ends like Fenton did. I cut mine off and used the peak of the roof and added stuff up there. Like I said, this is in the instructions. So I'm going to do another one. I got some extra castings and such, but I think I'm going to totally scratch do this, build the sides and have the vents on the bottom open too. So.
Is that brass wire inside the door?
Yep. There's things in the instructions about that too, because Fenton was eyeballing those things, sticking them in there. I said, nah, that could be a better way to do that. I mean, I love him. He's good. I mean, I'm glad he did this, because that's a car I've been wanting to do for a long time. And a little backstory on the whole project was I originally was talking to Speedwich, Ted Collada at Speedwich, about doing this car in resin. And he wanted to at the time, and we fed him all sorts of information. I mean, he's got the 36-foot boxcar. Of all the old cars, we don't have a whole lot of stuff on at the archives, but we have a complete set of plans for that sucker. And that's the car that the ventilators were based off of. So he had all that. And he, somewhere along the line after COVID, changed his mind on the project and convinced Fenton to do it for a take and shake. So shake and take, and that's how we wound up. But if Speedwich had done it, it'd been a much better car. So this is one I talked about earlier about doing 3D printing. Maybe we'll look at this one as a possibility for that down the road after we sell out of the one we got coming. So anyway, that's it painted. It's in there. If you want to take a closer I'm starting to get a little bit more into weather, so that was one of them. Josh has been my instructor now. I'm, in my 50 era stuff, I am really going whole hog, and those have the sergeant couplers on them, brake hose. I'm trying to make it as, good as I can, so. Next. Y'all remember the old proto stock cars? You used to pick them up for like $5. I finally got mine, built one of them. Here again, I replaced a lot of the grab irons with fine wire, and couplers, redid everything there, got the cut levers. Hard finding a lot of information on the L&N cars. I can find stuff on Mather stock cars, but there seem to be variances between the different railroads on details. So, yeah, I think that, it's in there too. So, next. And there's that flat car. What was the name? State Tool and Die? Was the one that did that. It's done by 3D Central. But it's in there too. I know some of y'all had some questions on that one, so later we'll catch up with me on that.
Do they still make the wood decks on those?
Yeah. The kit, as far as I know, is still available.
Yeah, it's still available.
That's the beauty of the 3D printing versus resin. You can print one anytime you want one. The resins, you can only get about maybe 30 out of a mold before it tears or it goes bad. So you have to make a new mold for it. But 3D printing, man, it's just, and the fact that it's CAD based, if we were to do the South Louisville shop bay windows, we could start off with the original, and then we can go through and make the modifications for each different versions and then do those, so.
The next run of these will have 4 different numbers
Yeah.
from the original.
There's 3 right now, isn't there?
No, there should be 4.
There's 4 on the website.
Yeah.
Right now?
Current first run,
I know
and
when,
then there'll be another 4.
yeah. It seemed like when I ordered this one, there were only a couple in stock at that point, but that's been a while, a couple months.
How long did it take to finish off this?
Not long. The grab irons are molded on. It's basically assembling it. It's more than an old blue box kit, but it's still, it's not like a resin kit. No, it's this one painted, printed, so. The only thing I did to that one is weather the decking on it. The rest of it's pretty much assembled the way it.
Is the decking part of the printing?
What?
Is the decking part of the printing, or is it?
No, that's a
laser?
wood deck, that's a
It's
laser
wood
cut wood deck.
Lee, did they supply the wood deck too?
Yep,
Yeah, also.
for 80
Pretty
bucks.
much everything's
better.
there, right?
I mean, that's my one complaint about that car is the price. It's $80.
I thought it was 7.
Well, maybe by the time shipping and everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Frankly, I was not gonna get one because it's outside my time frame, but Josh has a baby coming, and I know he wanted one, so I went ahead and got one. He's gonna wind up with it eventually, so.
The price says a lot too.
Yeah, next. And that's just that. Had to use an alligator. The one problem I had with it, the coupler pocket bottoms, they're supposed to be screwed on. I put the screw in there and it split it. So I had to glue it back together. And the coupler pocket covers, I ended up just kind of tacking back on with some CA glue. I didn't like doing that, but if I want to redo it again, if I do another one, I'm gonna drill that coupler pocket screw all the way through and tap it. And then I'll figure out some way to cover up the hole on top. But that was the only issue I had with that kit. So,
That's getting fixed on the next round.
yeah.
So you say you're gonna tap it
I'm gonna drill it all the way through and tap it with the coupler pocket screw.
with a,
256, I think, is about the right size, so. I did that, I did that with the trucks, where I went ahead and drilled it all the way, since the wood deck's gonna cover the holes up. I went ahead and did that too, just to be on the safe side. The stuff they're printing this out of holds great detail, but it can be a little fragile. or just tend to split if you do stuff oversized or undersize the screw holes. Next. Just to give you an idea, that is totally scratch built. That's one of the auxiliary water cars, which later L&N used for oil cars, or diesel fuel cars. And next, that's the other side of it. Here again, this is something I cobbled together. I did have one of the car diagram sheets that had the overall dimensions on it, so I worked all that out with photos and everything. Guess what's in the aperture card file? Next. And that's it painted, it's in there.
And what was that car used for?
Auxiliary water car. On the south end especially, they would use those because the water was so bad along the Mississippi coast and down.
Was
through
that the
there.
bullet car?
Huh?
Didn't it have bullet across?
Yeah,
the-
there were a couple of different sizes of these. Yeah, they had one that had the silver bullet. Was it silver bullet?
Something
I
like
forget
that.
what it is on it that ran behind a. That was behind an L1, wasn't it? Yeah. But yeah, there are a couple of different sizes of these cars. And they were quite common. I keep finding photos turn up of them, especially on the south end behind most anything. So, next. I thought I deleted that one. All right, next. That's the sand car. This is another one. I scratch built it from what information I had, all the photos I could gather. It's in the aperture card file too. And there are two different versions of this. There's a single bay and a two bay. South Louisville, they had one, there was a sign there. Pensacola, we had a two bay one. When I was starting to hang around, they were still using these up until near the end. But they're built on steam locomotive tender frames, so each one's gonna be a little different because they're all homemade. And some maybe have a weld on them, some whatever. But,
How long did this last? How long did this last?
the last,
Yeah, how long did they last?
up until, I would say the early 80s.
Wow.
And they built these when the switchers, the first diesels started coming around. So any place that had diesels assigned to it, they had to have their own sand facility. I don't know why the steam locomotive sand. Anyway.
Didn't have a sanding tower then yet?
Yeah, they had sanding tower, Pensacola did, but they'd bring the sand in on this because it came pre-dried from where they were getting it out of the place in Selma.
So you actually saw those down in Pensacola?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
The two bagels, yeah.
Yeah, the Modelers Corner that I'm working on for the next issue of our magazine, that the article's due to Flannery here any day now, will be about sand.
Yeah.
And, you know, this last issue, we had some examples of what early 1960s locomotive service areas looked like on the L&N. And I got such good feedback from that they wanted, people had asked for more information about sand. Where did it come from? How was it handled? And how was it
We're total
delivered?
geeks, aren't we?
Why was it necessary? So that'll be the article coming out in the June issue.
Okay.
One of the guys with Asperger's said, where did the sand come from?
The number's in a different font.
And
They
the
try it.
I pieced it out of
article
several
will have
different
a
decal sets.
copy of that general arrangement drawing for that car.
Since we're gonna do a caboose clinic a little later, that's one shot I got in here. This one is completely scratch built. That was my first scratch building project way back when. I've since repainted it and redecaled it, but that's all styrene and it has a full interior. which you can't see, so. The only thing about it are the steps, that's all I could find at the time. And if I can come up with enough, I may come up with enough of the extra resin steps, I may go back and redo that. But it kind of holds its own with the resin. The ladders are a little bit heavier, I built those out of brass stop. So, next. And we'll get, that car is out there, that's the office car 365, which later in their CSX was changed to a track geometry car, and then they sold it to somebody. But that's sort of, it's more of a scratch bash than anything. There's some River Rossi parts in there and Athearn parts. The roof is a, I forget who, and it has different things on it. So that's a car I always wanted to build, because that's the first L&N office car I ever saw. Next. And then we got the wall. That's not a very good picture of it, but it's out there if you want to look at it. That's the NKP sides. That's built on a Walther's observation, New York Central observation chassis. There's an article Bob Chapman did on this car using those sides that he used my method. I mean, we sort of co-authored it, so that has all the details in it about that. And one more, I think. Oh, that one, that's the tail end. I'm going to add, I've got the right tight lock coupler, and I got some hoses and stuff I need to add to that. So, next. That's out there too. That's one of the branch line coaches. I modified the windows on the end to match, and then it's got Holman. Who did those? CX. That was what's his name that did the sides for us.
Bethlehem Car Works did the.
Yeah, Bethlehem Car. You know if those are going to be available again, or do you talk to them about it? But those are pretty much dead. I don't know what L&N used.
Talk about the air conditioning
Yeah.
hatches?
Yeah.
Okay.
SRHA is working on 3D printing them.
Okay.
Oh, that's what's his name?
Evan.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
next. And the last car, I think this is the last one, that's the RPO car that we did. Really made it, once you got the 4 figured out, and the 4 was cattywampus in it, so once you get that figured out, it went together really nice.
That's a 60-foot?
So, I think that's it, isn't it?
No.
No, not quite. This was the scratch built. I think this is around 2000. It was right after we moved up to Birmingham. That was in our first apartment. I ended up building that, and I built this off measurements we took. I don't remember if John was in on that, but Steve and I and a bunch of us went up there one day and started measuring. Back then, the sand house and the equipment building was still there. Those disappeared not long after that, so we got as much measurement as we could. We did a lot of vertical stuff, but I worked off of photographs for the rest of it. And
Going down.
it was a job, but it really turned out well. Next.
Wasn't there a sand tower at Flemington?
That's it.
That's
Yeah,
it?
it was similar to one at
Yeah,
Alpha.
yeah, okay. They just tore it down.
Yeah.
They did just a couple of years ago.
And they tried to do that one too, but it doesn't. Didn't quite do
Flemington
it.
gave them a little trouble.
Yeah.
Instead of rolling over, it set down right on the track.
Right on the track.
That's ash hoist. That's one similar, different ones all over the L&N system. They had several different types, but this is the one at South Louisville. I wanted this one because it was the smallest one. If I ever have an engine facility, it's got to be compact. So next. There, that's it. Built and dusty, sitting on the layout. It's just out of the way. Okay, next. One thing about water towers I found out, the one The white one, of course, is L&N, that's a 50,000 gallon. No, that's the 60,000 gallon tank. That's the old Atlas water tank, just to give you a size, which everybody seems to use, so it just gives you a size comparison. The 50,000 gallon tank L&N had are the same exact size, except the tank itself is shorter and sloped on the sides. Next. But that's it, all done. Trivia thing, I actually worked from some blueprints I had in my collection, which I think we have scans of in ours now. There was a notation in there that at the Alabama-Tennessee line, tanks south of that line were to be open top and no frost box around the pipes underneath. And tanks north of that would have the roof and the frost box. So mine, this is the tower from Farmington, or was one like it at Farmington, so I built it with the open roof. And we know one at Farmington had an open roof, so they followed that. Next.
Did you include the scale mosquitoes?
No, a little hard to find.
Supposed to have the girls swing in and try to go junction.
So, but this is built directly from the L&N blueprints, so. Next. And the little crossing signal tower. There were some of these around Pensacola, but these were all over the system. That might be a good little project kit. There's no one makes anything similar to it that I'm
We
aware
have
of.
the drawings for that.
Yeah, I know. They came from Milton.
Yeah.
And that's the ones I worked off of. So, next. This is an attempt at doing a depot. I haven't finished it. We're looking at doing, I think, Andre Van Buren is taken on as a project to get a laser company to make these depots. So this was sort of a prototype for that I was working on. I still got to finish the roof off, which I got frustrated with it and set it aside. So
You gonna be clay tile roof or?
maybe. Not all of them had clay tile roofs, so we're going to see probably whatever the laser people can work with. So.
You have an article on where the clay tiles came from?
I don't know, are the clay tiles still under the Milton Depot or are they all?
No, they're off.
They disappeared,
Yeah.
so they won't ever get put back on.
Never,
I-
we could've got the dimensions.
When I was co-director of the West Florida Railroad Museum in Milton, we had issues with those clay tiles because they were still on the office end, and they were literally pushing the building down.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weight.
So we got, since it was a National Historic Landmark, we had to get basically permission to remove them and replace them with red asphalt tiles. But the stipulation was we had to save the clay tiles. So we had them all stacked up under the freight house. And after I left and Steve left, when I went back down there, I asked, y'all still got all those tiles? Oh, no, we got rid of them. I don't know why they weren't hindering anything.
They're in on somebody's houses where they're at.
Oh, and the clay tiles were nailed with bronze nails, square cut nails. It was, I still have a few of those we picked up. But, yeah. But that is actually based on, like I said earlier, when L&N standard plans, you threw them, they're general guidelines, let's put it that way. But this was based more on the depot at Camden, Alabama, at the end of the Camden branch. Except the Camden, they extended the freight house to another section. It was originally built to that, and they extended the freight. I think on the kit, we're gonna try to go with the extended bay, or the option to have it, so. Next. So what do you do when you have a coaling tower and a water tower and all this stuff laying around and you don't have a layout to put them on? Make a diorama. So this was its first outing at the RPM meet in St. Louis. This would have been about 20. When would we first? This would have been the second one we went to. So that was
2017?
2017. I did make a modification of Calling Tower. The L&N Herald originally just had some printed things in there, but I've since had access to a laser cutter, and I managed to cut it out and insert it into the tower, like, because it was all cast in there next. And that was his final outing to St. Louis. This is about 3 years ago now. So, along with all the other L&N stuff. So, then we had it in Macon, and somebody stuck a Pennsy locomotive on it. So,
We're everywhere.
yeah. So, that's the way all that stands now. And Josh wants to put it on a free mill module, so but he wants to strip all the iron off of it and make it like it looked in the '70s. So, I don't think so. Anyway, but I think that's the last one. That's it. Like I said, several of the car pieces are out there in the display room, so if you got any questions or anything, so. That's all I got for now. What time is it?
11:30.
Huh?
11:30.
Wow, we're way behind. You wanna hold off on the caboose clinic till after lunch, is that okay?
Sure.
And we wanna go ahead and break for lunch now, and,
Can we do the, when are we gonna do the tour of the layout here?
we can do that right now if you want.
Okay, that'd be great for me, because I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, I know some of you gotta take off, so, anyway, all right, Josh, you wanna take them over, or should I? Okay, if you wanna go